Gen Z is set to become the wealthiest generation yet.
Took out a 25 grand business loan, got my first office, hired my first member of staff, and the rest is history.
Trust, monetization, influencer fatigue, the creator economy. Where is everything actually heading?
We are literally at the start of what I consider a big boom in the social industry.
What does it take to make it?
There's a few things that are really important for success. Number one is your ability to speak to camera. It's lonely. Being a content creator is an easy job. It's not at all. The biggest mistake I've made is...
Well, Benjy, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
For anyone who doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do in a few words?
For sure. So my name's Benjy. I run a company called Connect Management, which is the largest social first talent agency in the UK. We represent just over 150 influencers exclusively. That means we help them with all of their commercialization, business opportunities, backroom admin, all of that sort of stuff. We also have an academy, which is essentially the same as our main roster, but for talent that are emerging. We help build them, give them opportunities to grow, and give them all the tips and tricks, I guess, necessary to navigate the social media world. And then on top of that, we also have an agency, which, similar to what you do, we create strategies for brands across social media and help them activate with the right creators. So yeah, do a lot.
Yeah, you do. How long ago did you start this?
I started the business in 2020, so 5 years ago. And it was very much a lockdown side hustle. So my background is in traditional media, and I was actually selling all of the advertising for airlines. So we talked a little bit before about Wizz Air and some of these Eastern European airlines, and I was basically doing all the advertising on the magazines, boarding passes, digital ads before you get to the airport, plane wraps, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've been in advertising for a while now.
Okay. What made the transition from traditional media to digital in the pandemic?
Listen, everything changed in the pandemic. It's a massive turning point for me in my life. I got a call from a friend of mine, and he said, Benjy, I've got 1 million followers on this thing called TikTok. Do you think that we can commercialize it? And at the time, he was doing really well. He was making some unbelievable content. But, you know, there's a barrier between being creative and then having the time to also commercialize what you're doing. So, you know, I was doing nothing. It was locked down. I said, right, let's see how we can do something together. We agreed a percentage. And I said, cool, I'll go out to market the same way I do with the airlines. And yeah, the rest is history. We did really well together. I decided that it wasn't a side hustle. Lockdown ended. And I went full on, went to the bank, took out a 25 grand business loan, got my first office, hired my first member of staff, and the rest is history.
How long did it take you from doing this as a side hustle into an actual business?
I mean, the first 6 months was just me at home, 1-bedroom flat, wake up, get out of bed, sit at my desk, finish the day, go back into bed and repeat. A lot of unseen graft of what, you know, setting up a business is, making the website, being the lawyer, doing the accounts, like literally doing everything, right? To lockdown ending, going to a load of different events, meeting lots of people and thinking, this could be a business. And I think a pivotal conversation that I had was with a mentor of mine, and he said, you've got two options now. Either you go back to doing what you're doing, or you go all in on this and you take a risk. And I'm very glad that my decision was to take the risk and go all in building out the business that I have today. And yeah, we're doing really well. We've got 50 members of staff now. It's a big team. And we're looking after some of the biggest brands in the country, doing their social strat and their content for them. And yeah, haven't looked back.
No, that's a really interesting journey. And we're going to go back to speaking about your business.
Yeah.
But can we start speaking a bit about Gen Z now?
Sure.
So
I technically am Gen Z, right? Just
so
on
am
the
I.
cusp.
Okay, cool. So we're good to speak about it.
Sure.
Good perspective on it. So Gen Z is predicted to become the wealthiest generation over time, right? Mia McGrath puts it that we are frugal chic, which I had to do a bit of research that we're, yes, financially literate. We are conscious about the way we spend while prioritizing experiences, health, and meaning over just brand association.
Yeah.
If that's the case, do you think that luxury brands need to redefine the way that they send value and the way that value means to their audiences?
Yes and no. I think luxury brands are so important in the marketplace because it's something that people aspire to buy. And usually these luxury brands are advertising with really big celebrities that are almost untouchable to build this sort of hype, you know, the likes of Dior, Louis Vuitton, whatever. I think that if you look on social media and you go on, let's say, Louis Vuitton's account, it's all very crisp, high production, beautifully aesthetic models. Does that do it for Gen Z? I'm not sure. I think when you go on the website and you see that a T-shirt's £1,500, that's quite off-putting, regardless of whether someone that you think is really cool is wearing it. I think that the way that luxury and high-end brands have succeeded over the last, I don't know, hundreds of years has been by creating almost like a moment of aspiration. Yeah, but it's something that people aspire to have. And I don't think that should change. I think when you look at the social content, you should almost see these luxury items as things that you are aspiring to achieve. You know, it's a statement of wealth. It's a statement of success. And I don't think that should change. I think you've got really cool brands like Burberry who are very socially savvy. And, you know, they work with some of our creators, but also a lot of other creators across the country. And they're giving more of a reputation of like achievability. It's almost like, yes, we sell these products, which are £400, £500 for a T-shirt, but there's almost this association with people that are kind of closer to home. Like I feel like influencers are more, although they're public figures and, you know, they're famous as such, there's almost a feeling of you can relate to them, right? When you see ex-influencer online putting their makeup on or trying on a new bit of clothing, you almost are like, oh, that's cool, I might go and get that. Whereas I think when you see a celebrity, let's say, rocking an entire Louis Vuitton outfit, your instant reaction is not, oh, I could have that. It's almost like, oh my God, he must be so rich to be able to wear that sort of thing. So I think by using some of these social stars, you're bringing the reality of what it is back to life in a sense of, oh shit, maybe, sorry for my swearing, I could actually get a Burberry jacket or a Burberry scarf or whatever. And for that reason, I think that they should start using people that are maybe a bit more reachable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there is a major shift in the way people shop luxury brands. It has been for the last couple of years, and I think luxury brands more and more will suffer unless they are changing a couple of things in the strategy. And I agree with you. I think from aspirational distance, they should go more into proximity and honesty, and probably this step of using influencers is probably better than using just the celebrities because we don't really relate to them. And the trends of purchasing right now are changing exactly to you want to belong to a community, you want to relate to the people that you're associating yourself with, not just to aspire to be. But if there would be one thing that you would tell luxury brands to stop doing on socials right now, what would that be?
Honestly, I would say it's this clean-cut, high-production content that doesn't resonate with anybody. I think if you're making it for out of home, if you're making it for TV, cool, do that. But don't plaster that across social because it doesn't perform. And, you know, people want to see stuff that's relatable regardless of whether it's out of their price range. And I think a great example of that is someone on our roster, again, Burberry, are working with Grime Gran, who is an 87-year-old granny from the South End. And, you know, she is just the epitome of proving that anybody could wear Burberry, right? And it's done so well. And she was in the Christmas advert on telly and all of that stuff. And we had so much positive feedback of people saying, wow, it's so refreshing to see somebody like her in one of these adverts. And it's not just like people that are sort of out of touch or out of reach. I think it goes back to that thing where, you know, on Jimmy Kimmel and they're like, how much is a pint of milk? And these celebrities have not got a single clue what anything costs. I think by bringing in people that are a bit more close to home and people are able to resonate with, you almost build up much more trust and affiliation with the brand between them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think Burberry is a very good example because I think they pivoted their strategy at the right time.
They've done so well.
And similarly, I think Loewe is doing extremely well again
Yeah.
on socials. And I think it's also brands realizing that different distribution platforms require different kind of content.
Sure.
Like Loewe going quite raw on their TikTok.
I think it's really important as well that, for example, you take TikTok as a platform, and we just discussed, you put different content on different platforms. It's such a younger skewing audience that it might potentially be neglected by the likes of, let's say, Louis Vuitton, because it's like, okay, well, these people can't afford to buy our products, but who are these people growing up into, right? And it's the same thing about Patek Philippe and their advertising since, the break of dawn. It's, you don't buy a Patek, you get it handed down sort of thing. That's the messaging. And kids grow up with the aspiration to own a Patek Philippe because of that messaging. And it's the same thing that needs to happen with these brands on social. They need to understand that these 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, they will grow up, and what they aspire to buy will be based on what they've been served whilst they were younger. And I think if, regardless of the price range, you see something that you desperately want and it resonates with you, at some point that's going to be in your bucket list to buy when you suddenly have money. The same way when I first made money, I've always wanted a convertible BMW. That was like the thing that I wanted, and that was the first thing I bought. Now, there's hundreds of car brands. There's hundreds of different things that I could have decided that I wanted to buy, but that was something that I aspired to have based on things I saw growing up. And I think that these brands need to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think soft advertising is so much better than a hard sell, and that comes with long-term view.
The amazing thing about influencers is you're basically recommending people something based on somebody they trust. I think when someone tells you to buy something, especially in a sales manner, it's really hard to get sold on something that you don't want. Whereas if a family member, someone that you've trusted forever, right, comes home and shows you the new iPhone, you're much more likely to buy that iPhone off the back of their personal recommendation than just seeing the advert on television, right? That's why word of mouth marketing is so powerful. And I feel like that's what you're getting when you book influencers. You're getting somebody that's basically created a network of people that trust them. So when they then go online and say, buy this mascara, that's what you're going to go and do, because it's almost like your sister telling you.
Yeah.
And that's why influencer marketing is so powerful.
I'm very happy that you actually brought this up, because I think there are influencers and influencers, right? And there seemed to be a bit of a trust issue with some of the influencers. People know that most content is paid, engagement drops, creators struggle to convert. So if you would want to become an influencer today, what would be the first steps to take to monetize your content and to turn this into a full-time career?
I mean, listen, there's hundreds of thousands of influencers on the market in the UK alone. I manage exclusively 150. So if you put that into percentiles, it's nothing, right? Less than 1%. Those 150 have been curated and they're on my roster for a reason, because they deliver what's necessary to achieve certain things for brands, right? So we've got a very, very careful process when it comes to signing influencers, who we want to work with. And we get 300 applications a day through our website of influencers that want us to be working with them, and it's just not feasible. I would say that there's a few things that are really important for success. Number one is your ability to speak to camera. I think that a lot of creators think that they can just do voiceovers or they can do sort of faceless content. That goes against the point that we just talked about of being able to actually sell a product and be a spokesperson. So that's something that brands are looking for all the time. Personality, you can't fake it. You either have got a good personality or not. Some people are really fucking boring. Sorry, I can't stop swearing.
It's fine.
Some people are really boring, right? And that's just how they are. So maybe they're not built for show business. This is just another form of show business. Not everybody is born to be an actor or a singer or a dancer. So, you've got to be able to sell. You've got to be able to speak to camera. You've got to have that personality, and then above all, you've got to have so much grit and determination to get kicked down and down and down again and again and again, and pick yourself back up every single day and come with a new idea, a fresh content creation, and that's difficult. I think people underestimate how hard it is to be a content creator. You're not in a 9-to-5 job where you turn up, you know what you're doing, you do it, you get it gone, and then you go home. Every day you've got to wake up and come up with something fresh and new. Otherwise, you get replaced by somebody else. That's a really scary thing to happen to you. And I think that a lot of content creators that fail get in their own head so much about having to stay relevant that they almost stop doing what they did in the first place, which was just create really good content. So for me, personality, ability to talk to camera, and then just that determination to just keep getting back up again and again and again. And I can tell that when you speak to somebody what their personality is like.
Speaking of which, traditional media is shifting really fast. I saw BBC collaborating with YouTube. Recently, Netflix is pushing for podcasts.
Massively.
What does this signal for creators?
It signals that they're in the right place. It's a growing industry, and it's clear that there's a massive growth opportunity for creators. This is not the ceiling. You know, we are literally at the start of what I consider a big boom in the social industry. You've got people like George Clark on Strictly. You've got Angry Ginge winning I'm a Celeb. GK Barry was on I'm a Celeb the year before. These are big creators that are being trusted by big TV shows and big brands. And slowly but surely, these casting producers and directors are realizing that in order to get this Gen Z and Gen Alpha audience, you have to put on people who have younger skewing audiences. So I think that we're only going to see more and more of that. And off the back of it, it's going to create much bigger opportunities and grow some of these social talents into traditional big celebrities. So yeah, it's a very exciting time to be a content creator.
Well, it's clear that creators are really good at building personal brands. And if we can switch now a little bit to businesses, our company works a lot with the businesses trying to make them more relatable to their audiences. And we are always trying to look at the personal brand approach. There's a lot of founders that say, I don't want to be the face of the brand, which for you, it's a killer for the influencers that they can't be on camera.
I think it's entirely possible to be a founder and not be online. I think that in order for that to happen, you need to nominate somebody else from the business to step up as that person, because if you're not screaming and shouting from the top of your lungs about what you're doing, then nobody's seeing you. You know, it's not the old days where, you know, you'd get referrals because this person knows this person, this person knows this person. You know, now people make the most noise are winning these jobs. And obviously there's an element of being able to produce and deliver the work to a certain standard. But, you know, I've done incredibly well by creating a buzz, creating a noise, showing everybody what we do. I obviously hire a big team that manages a lot of this stuff behind the scenes. So it's less of a pressure for me as such to think about creating content. You know, I don't edit my videos. I don't worry about almost the content strategy. It's taken care of, which is a really nice feeling as a founder. But, you know, it's taken me 5 years to get to that point where we could afford to be in that position. So if I look back at the content that I've been making over the last 5 years, it's been very much like everyone's jumped in to help as much as possible. There's been multiple people that have sort of scrubbed up and got involved and managed to create some really good content. And we've grown about 200,000 followers on our personal brand. Now we're a management company. It's not that exciting, but, you know, there's still ways to showcase what we're doing. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but a lot of what I showcase online is how I incentivize my staff and keep my teams happy. I think that's really important both from a recruitment standpoint. You know, businesses spend hundreds of thousands of pounds a year on recruiters. I haven't used a recruiter in years because every job that we put out, we get hundreds of applications, sometimes 600 applications per job. And that's off the back of all the content that we create. So I would say it's so important as a business to really showcase what you're doing. I know it's an investment. Right, it is an investment, and unfortunately, you know, businesses in other sectors don't have a brain, for example, that understands social media. So I'm very lucky that I have a social business. It's very easy for us to pull brains together and come up with social content. Whereas, if you were asking me to design some clothes, for example, I wouldn't have a Scooby on how to do it. So I think that, you know, I'm lucky in that sense. But there's plenty of great agencies like yourselves out there that do this for brands, help founders with their personal branding. You know, I made a conscious effort this year, and it's funny that this was when you emailed me to get on more podcasts and do more personal branding for myself. Because a lot of the time I'm in the trenches working on the business, and I struggle to get out there and talk about our story. So this is a massive thing for me as well. Now this year, how do I improve our personal brand? How do I get the story out of what we're doing? Because we are doing some really amazing things, and we are changing people's lives, and I want people to know about it.
Yeah, and well done on that. And I agree with you. I think to a certain stage, until you can afford putting a team forward, you as a founder have to be the face of your business. And it's not necessarily a must, but it is a must if you want to be competing in a market like this, because there are a lot of people that are shouting from the rooftop of the buildings that they are doing really well and they are putting themselves out there and they fail and they try again. So you just not really putting yourself in the same line with them, that's already making a competitive disadvantage for you.
I think the biggest blocker usually is people caring about what other people think.
Yeah,
Right?
I
It's
agree
like,
with you.
I'm going after my dreams. What if somebody doesn't like that?
What is the biggest mistake that they do in terms of monetizing their channels?
It's a great question. I think the best thing that people can do to monetize their channels is build relationships. I think it's easy to assume that everyone's going to want to work with you because you're the best. It's also easy to assume that because a brand wants to work with you on a one-off job, why wouldn't they work with me for the whole year? Well, they're testing the waters, right? So I think people underestimate the value of going above and beyond for clients. So, when you have a meeting with, let's say, a random brand, Nike, right? Cool. They might be inviting you to an event or paying you a small amount for a job. You should be going there and wanting to go above and beyond to prove to them that you deserve to be working with them. I think people are almost sometimes entitled to feeling like they deserve to work with these brands. These brands have hundreds of thousands of options, right? A lot of the time, these brands want to work with people that they enjoy working with, that they have a good relationship with. And that's why relationships, networking is just so important. I think that creators, listen, all of my creators are very good at networking, and that's part of our process when we're, onboarding people. Do I know that if I put you in a room with one of my brands, are you actually going to be able to present yourself in the best way possible? And I'm very lucky that the roster we've created are unbelievable at that. And, they are genuinely just nice people, and they want to go and build relationships with brands, and they want to build friendships. And off the back of that, they're able to then build out long-lasting partnerships that benefit them financially, but also are really fun. And it doesn't feel like a job, and it doesn't feel like work. And that for me is the most important thing, is sometimes you've got to do something for free to get something in return. And I wish that everyone would be as open-minded, because, I've done so many things for free that have led to unbelievable opportunities. And that's a superpower, being able to not just think about the money, because I think a lot of founders just worry all the time about the financial upside. It's the same thing with all the giveaways and the stuff that I do. The one question I get from every single person that talks to me about it is, but how do you financially afford to do that? And the truth is, it's the same thing as, how do you have time to go to the gym? How do you have time to do this? Like, there's always opportunities. There's always ways to make things work.
But now, speaking of influencers and creators, I want to speak about the different type of one.
Yeah.
AI ones.
Oh,
AI
God.
and virtual influencers are becoming almost indistinguishable from the real ones.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it happens so fast. Do you see that as an opportunity or as a threat?
It's definitely not a threat. I think that, listen, we can get into AI afterwards. I think AI is an amazing thing if it's used in the right way.
Yeah.
I think that AI influencers are really interesting because you can build audiences based on something that's not real, which is quite weird to me. I think in terms of converting, like, cool, you can make a really pretty girl or a really handsome looking guy, and you can post them with no clothes on or whatever, and suddenly you're going to build up an audience. But is that person going to convert if they started doing branded collabs? No chance, right? These people get followed for vanity, not for having an audience. So, when you then take X AI influencer and you start getting them to promote X makeup brand, is that going to convert? Not sure. It might get you the eyeballs, but I don't think it will get you actual like brand affiliation and people wanting to buy that off the back of seeing it recommended from someone that's not real. Whether it looks real or not, I think people are pretty aware of whether somebody's a real person or not.
I would question that, honestly. I get what you mean, but we were doing our research the other day. I came across an account which is an AI monk. And this is the funniest oxymoron, because this AI is actually speaking about life, about slow living, about the human values while it's an AI. So I'm going in the comment section, and I think 5% of the people are calling it out as an AI, while the other majority is just saying, how well spoken it is and how true and how relatable
Yeah.
that is.
Listen, that's great, but there's one thing seeing a video and saying, "Oh, this is really relatable, oh, really well spoken, whatever." But there's another thing trying to get someone to buy something. I think it's two completely different conversations, and I think when you get asked to buy something, your instant reaction is to like legitimately check what it is. And I think if you do a bit of deep diving and a bit of research, you probably would work it out. Some people wouldn't,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that AI influencers will be a phase. I think it will be a year's worth of it, and then it will just kind of die out.
Like the NFTs.
Like your NFTs, spending £500,000 on a monkey with a cap. What a load of rubbish that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I think AI as an industry is crazy, and yeah, we could speak about it for hours. About the AI influencers, I think it's still early days to tell. But if you would have to say a couple of trends that you see taking place in 2026, what do you think that is?
I think you're going to see a lot more founder-led content, as we discussed. I think you're going to see people really putting their faces to their businesses. I also think that we're going to see a lot more creators in traditional media, in the television shows. And I think that you're also going to see some of the more larger streaming sites like Netflix and Amazon Prime buying up a lot of creator IP to launch on their channels, like they have with Inside and Beast Games and all of these shows. There's plenty more that I can't think of now, but there's a lot of them that are getting bought up. And speaking to the buying team, social first content is something that they're really interested in.
I want to speak a lot more about your mindset.
Sure.
Okay, the driving force behind everything. Is there one habit or one routine that had a really big impact on your performance and growth as a CEO?
There's a few things that I feel are really important. I think the culture element is a massive thing, but also it's deeper than that. It's when you say something, not going back on your word. It's very easy, and I see a lot of founders say, we're going to do this and we're going to offer you this, and we hit this target, you're going to get this, and then suddenly these things just don't happen. And you lose trust. Not me losing trust, but the staff lose trust in you and what you're saying. I think from day one, I set very clear boundaries as to what I'm going to do, what you're going to do, and how this relationship works. And then on top of that, I promised that if I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. And that's a very difficult thing to do as a founder, because a lot of the time goalposts move and things change. But that's my commitment to my staff, that if I tell you I'll do something, I will make a way to make that happen. And that builds a trust and a bond that you just can't buy. On top of that, the way that you treat people, you can see from all of our videos that I go above and beyond for the staff. That's just extra on top of everything else that I do. I think you see people commenting all the time like, yeah, but it goes deeper than just money. You need to be nice to people and you need to treat them well and blah, blah, blah. I think, and it's all an opinion game, but I think that there's nothing more that I can do to be a nice person to people. I think every day I go out and my goal is to find somebody and leave them better than I found them. Whether that's doing something nice for somebody I don't know, whether that's having a conversation with somebody that's struggling in my business and motivating them and keeping them in a positive frame of mind. I just want to have conversations and leave someone better than I found them. It could be having a conversation with you on this podcast and then going, I've actually got a friend that could do with your services. Here, I'll connect you. Something like that. And I think that if you operate in that way and you're very transparent with people, then people know what they're going to get. And then you're able to build real relationships. So when someone would traditionally call off work because, I don't know, they needed to go to their parents' 50th wedding anniversary or whatever it is, instead of me getting a lie of like, I'm sick or whatever, I've got honest relationships with people where they can turn around to me and say, listen, I really need to have the time off work this afternoon. And we can work things out. And that's priceless as a boss, to have open communication with your staff. And that comes from treating people nicely and just being an honest and transparent person. And that's how the business started from a influencer perspective. All I wanted to do was set out to create a transparent marketplace for creators. All of the creators that I was working with from my flat were basically getting screwed over by middleman agents, which would say, hey, ex-creator, I've got $5,000 for you for this job. But then when I scrolled up on the email thread, I could see that they offered 7.5. And I'm like, okay, well, where's that extra $2,500 gone? In their pocket. And cool, that's a way to operate. But none of those businesses are around anymore, because when you try and look and gain a quick buck, what you end up with is a load of quick relationships that end. Whereas my goal was never to build quick relationships. My goal was to build longevity and build a business. So I set out extremely transparently in everything that we do. That's from creator contracts all the way through to understanding what you're earning and also where you stand with me. And that's the same with my staff. Everybody knows where they stand and everybody understands what I'm expecting. I am a great boss, but I also expect a lot as a boss. You know, we are the top of the game, which means we need to deliver the top of the game service. You know, you go and watch Arsenal play football and you expect a top performance because they're the top of their game at the moment. You expect the same when you then go and buy a product from Louis Vuitton. You expect that standard to be top. The same with marketing, the same with any business. If you say you offer a top service, you need to deliver it. So I can be hard on my staff in terms of quality because I really don't want to embarrass myself in that way. I want to make sure that if I say to a client, we're going to deliver you the best quality of service, that's what they get. And they do because of the standards that we upkeep.
Yeah. And speaking of people, how do you choose yours?
As in my staff?
Yeah.
Listen, I've got a head of culture who is amazing and she vets every single person before they even get to an interview stage. For me, CVs are important. I need to understand what experience you've got. But at the end of the day, the personality and your motivations are way more important to me. We want to build a group of like-minded people that are all working towards the same goal. And with that, you know, we've all got to be on the same wavelength. I need hard workers. I don't want people that think they're coming just for an easy ride and you know, loads of free food and trips and all of this kind of stuff. Yes, that all is there and there's opportunities for that. But at the same time, we expect a high standard of work. So we're very cautious with how we're hiring, and there's so many amazing people out on the market that potentially don't want to work 5 days from the office or don't believe in doing things the same way that we do, and that's fine. We're just not aligned. When someone says to me, "Oh, I could never work 5 days from the office," I go, "That's fine, but you're not somebody that I would want to hire. Not because I don't think you're capable or good at your job, but just because the culture that I'm building and the business that I'm building doesn't want people that don't want to work from an office." And that's just how I operate, right? I want to build a culture. I want to be able to walk over to someone and check how a project is going without worrying what they're doing. And the reality is, I know a lot of people that work from home. Most people are great and they do what they need to do, but there's also 20% of people that absolutely do nothing, right? And they sit there and they move their mouse just so their boss thinks they're working. That happens. Now, do I want, as a business owner that's spending a lot of money on wages, do I want to think that my wages are getting wasted by somebody that's sitting at home because they're too hungover from the night before? No. And that's part of the reason why I want people in person. You know, if I'm going to pay the top dollar, if I'm going to incentivize people in the best way, I need people that want to do the best job. And that's not going to change as I scale. It's not going to change from 4 people to 10 people to 20 to 50. And I'm hoping by the end of this year, we'll probably have 70 or 80 people. And again, that's not going to change.
You've been quite open about your mistakes,
Yeah.
including being burnt in a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
What was the lesson that cost you the most, but has also taught you the most?
I would say the biggest lesson is expecting that everybody thinks the way that you think. You go into a conversation and it's almost like expected that people will be on the same page as you or feel the same way. And sometimes they don't. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, because sometimes you're like, but I don't understand how you can't see my vision. You can't see what I want to achieve. You can't be disheartened by that. Not everybody's going to be the right fit for your company. Not everybody's going to be the right client for you. The biggest mistake I've made is holding on to clients that are causing me trouble. You know, difficult to work with, or the relationship isn't quite there and it feels a bit toxic. And, you know, financially you think, no, I've got to keep those clients because, you know, it's revenue and I need revenue. But actually, I think mental health is way more important than revenue. And when you're stressed, you then mess up other things in other areas. So I think having clarity and being calm is so important, that if you've got a client that's doing your head in, you need to find a way to stop working with that person. Because if you've not got clarity, you can't operate a business. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say the biggest mistake I've made is holding on to relationships longer than they should have been. And I should have just bit the bullet and said, listen, this isn't working. And that's not a bad conversation to have. Again, with relationships sometimes just don't work, and that's fine. But you need to leave everything amicably. I'd say opposite to my biggest mistake, the best thing that I've ever done is the fact that I leave every relationship amicably and I don't burn bridges. And that's something that I feel really important about, because people do make mistakes. People sometimes go through changes. And I've found that pretty much all of the relationships that have ended in any way usually end up coming back to life further down the line, because I haven't left it in a negative way. And people always say to me, but I don't understand how you can be so kind or nice to that person when they've done this, that, and the other. And my response is, I don't want to give anybody a single piece of ammunition about me that could potentially be negative. Yeah. Because you just don't know what people are going to do with that. They're going to go on a podcast and talk to you, oh, this guy, he did this and he did that and blah, blah, blah. I want my conscience clear that there's nothing that I've done that can be used on me. And as long as I'm operating in that way and I'm completely honest and transparent with everything I do, I know that I can make decisions. Whether those decisions are happy for both people, like both people in the decision are happy. Some people don't want to stop working together or whatever. You've got to prioritize yourself sometimes.
I wanted to ask, in the early days, when you didn't really have the luxury to choose who you're working with, you said you started with one friend of yours. Did that relationship bring more business, or how did you convince clients and businesses to join you?
I don't want to dismiss any of the work that, me and my friend did, because, so many relationships that I now still have to this day are off the back of that relationship that my friend and I built together. And one friend turned into two friends, and those two friends probably recommended me 10 to 15 other creators that really helped me build the business. And I'm so grateful to those two friends, because I probably wouldn't be sitting where I am today without, those connections that they made. And we still work together closely every single day. So yeah, I just feel like a lot of people will get success and then forget about what got them there. That's not me. I'm like genuinely so grateful for everything that I do. And one of my friends, Brandon, who was my first client, he also now runs a big company. He runs a massive production company off the back of his socials. And he's got just under 40 staff. And we are constantly on the phone to each other in the evenings talking about, oh, this happened today and that happened today. And it's so refreshing to have somebody that you can trust, that's been with you throughout the whole process, that you can just unload and explain and just understand that we're going through the same things together. I think founder life is always going to have problems. You're always going to have something that's gone wrong that you need to sort out, or somebody in your team that's done something you then need to pick up the pieces because of. And I think when you don't talk to other founders, you suddenly start thinking that you're the problem and you're just not good at what you do, and that's why all these things are happening. And actually, when you talk to people who are also in it, you realize that they're suffering with the same problems. And that is actually quite a nice feeling, believe it or not, because you're able to understand that it's not you and it's just the way of business. And that, so that relationship's been so positive. And I genuinely don't think that we would, alongside, obviously, we've both got mentors and coaches and all these other things, be in the positions that we are in today without that relationship.
What did you do differently compared to the rest of the agency that gave you this competitive advantage to grow to the size that you are today?
Purely transparency. It was the main thing for me. I saw all these creators getting messed about, and I thought, okay, if I can just be a transparent person in this industry. Remember, at the start, I thought it was a side hustle. So I was like, right, let's just earn some people as much money as possible, whilst being transparent and not letting them get effed off by other people, right? So that's how it started. And, my whole thing was just, here's your deal, here's your contract. Are you happy for that to go ahead? And just putting all my cards on the table. And I think that really spread quite fast in the industry, because people were like, okay, there's actually an honest guy here that is out for our benefit and not just out to get us. And I'm certain that still happens to this day. There's agents that are screwing over content creators. And it's something that I tell everybody, even if you don't sign with Connect, because obviously we don't have capacity to sign everybody. Do your due diligence when you're signing with an agency. There's so many scammers out there. There's also a load of really amazing agents, and there's enough market share for everybody to live happily ever after. Like the same in the production world. How many production companies are there? There's still plenty of business for you to win. It's the same as the content world. And if anything, I think that the creator agencies should be working together more. I've got some really amazing relationships with creator agencies, and then I also have some relationships where people don't want to speak to me because they see what I'm doing and they feel threatened by that. So yeah, I just think collaboration is always a more efficient way of getting success quickly.
Yeah, I think collaboration is the way forward, to be very honest. We are all about partnerships at 36. And speaking about the way forward, what's the next big thing in the cards for you?
There's so much like cool stuff that we're working on. I think we're building out some amazing formats with our creators at the moment, which hopefully will get the chance to sell to traditional TV. That's going to be really exciting. Just the scaling of the team and being able to just keep expanding and growing what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Benjy. But before I let you go, I want to ask you some fire questions.
Okay.
You can answer in a sentence or in a word. You ready?
Go for it.
What's the hardest truth about running an agency that no one talks about?
It's lonely. You see all the positive stuff, the nice cars, the watches, the blah, blah, blah. But actually the graft, the determination, everything that comes with that, the late nights, it's hard. It's not an easy job, and you don't have a lot of people that resonate with that feeling.
What's one red flag that you always notice in creators right away?
I think if everything's about the money, there should be a willingness to build relationships and a career and longevity. If it's just about, I need this amount of money because I want to buy this house or I want to buy this car, I just think you're looking for short wins.
What's one controversial opinion about the creator economy?
That being a content creator is an easy job. It's not at all. And we talked about it already, but it is so hard. And, you know, people talk about sales or recruitment and these jobs being hard. You know, you got to get in and be on the phone every day and make a certain number of calls. Content creation is the same, just in a different way. You know, you have to come up with those new ideas every single day. That's lonely. There's no one to help you. There's no one that resonates. Every time you tell someone that you're struggling, they go, well, you just make videos all day. It's not hard. It is. The editing process alone is a full-time job. The videoing of it is a full-time job. This is what people don't understand.
What's one rule inside your agency that would surprise people?
Every morning between 9:30 and 9:45, I have a no desk rule where you're not allowed to do work.
Okay.
So 15 minutes, we blast music, everyone makes coffees, makes their breakfast, has a chit chat. I feel like when you get off the tube, when you get out of your car, you're in this sort of like slump where it's like, oh, it's Monday morning, can't be bothered, blah, blah, blah. Like young people, they've been out the night before or whatever. I just want to wake people up and shake them out of that feeling of slump.
If you have to start again tomorrow, what's the first thing that you would do?
Continue being transparent. Honesty is the best policy. It will always win. As I said, people will scam people. They'll have quick wins. They'll look like from the surface that they've got loads of money. But a lot of the time, it's quite easy to look rich online.
My last question, saturation on social media, is that a real problem or is it just a lazy excuse?
Lazy excuse. If you work hard and build an audience and, you know, focus on a niche, you will do well on socials. If you've got a good personality, if you're willing to grind, and if you talk to bloody camera.
I agree. Benjy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.